Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
There we go.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, finally. No, I was just trying. I was having a hard time trying to put on the microphone. So if you guys can hear me, that's actually great. Especially here in Africa, because the internet is also quite slow. And this is my first time on this page. So things look a little different for me. So just bear with me. Magic would be interesting. I think that one, because here, the way the magic works, I don't think there's a lot of how you could actually know. Feel like the way people see just black magic in general, there are too many ideas of it. And so it's so hard to say the word in general. So then, because I don't want the person to run with their own idea of what it is before really like saying like how it is. Magic, well, I think here, for example, spirituality within, okay, there's a difference between within African people, and then it depends on what type of African. But this one, I mean, just in general with African people and how they approach spirituality. I don't think they see it in terms of good and bad. Like they try to judge a way onto something, whether if it's a good deed or a bad deed for them. Power is right. Like, it doesn't matter how how you get there. So if you have to kill like 3 people and drain, the blood of an albino to get the power, then they would have to do that. It's not necessarily something that you can come later and say, oh no, but that's bad. Like, yeah, it's bad, but that was not the point. The point is this guy wanted some power, and the whole point was what was the power used for and everything. It does not mean that you avoid the consequences. Of course, you doing it that manner, which I think here people are kind of, they tend to forget about the consequences in general of the type of magic they use here. But I think there's a lot of confusion in how it actually plays in like a normal person's life, the magic, because I don't want, again, people to assume like they think magic is only reserved for a type of person or a type of lifestyle. And I mean, this could just be, of course, anyone ever to anyone. It's just that the way here and how I know it, how it works, I think is it's much more obvious and I think precise to get to the point of it and like the way you see it and the way. Because I think, I don't know, because I also think in Western areas, like the way you do it is also different. Like things like dreams, for example, they're taken very lightly. Whereas here, doesn't matter what you believe in, but dreams in general are not taken lightly. So here, if somebody who calls you in the morning like, oh, I have this dream that, you're in a car accident on this road and that day, the person immediately will not drive. It's not something like superstition, but they just, that's just how the magic works. Like the magic could have an effect where, a dream had to arrive to someone to tell them, hey, this is what's going to happen. So you have to be, to tell that person to save them from that type of thing. It's not like one spell, one thing, one trick. It's it's a lot of very small details. And that's the whole point about this type of magic. It's meant to hide. You're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to see it. You're not supposed to figure it out. You're not supposed to beat it. That's how bad in general and the devil and all of that stuff works. You're not supposed to see it. You're not supposed to understand it. You're not supposed to, when somebody advises you, you're supposed to be against it. That person's supposed to say, oh no, I'm going to just drive either way. No, you're not supposed to. So here, but people here, they know it, they feel it beyond it not being reported or whatsoever. So that's why people end up being like, okay, no, then that means I will drive because you saw it in your dream. So it's very normal. Even my mom can just come and be like, oh, I had this type of dream. Already those things already help towards knowing how to get around the magic or in general. But already if you live, like, I think in a westernized type of setting, already that, oh, I just had a dream, it's just a dream. It's that's what I mean about the details of how to figure out one thing and how magic plays. I don't know how people assume how it works. So you really have to know how to
I can tell you how the Western or a lot of Western thought seems how magic
yeah.
works. And I think by what you described, the versatility of and all the small details of what magic is, and how hard it is to pin down to one or two or three things, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I think we can
It's
agree on that.
And also, it's
Because
about things. What's even hard is there are certain things that happen that people, like a huge amount of people, will not believe. Like here, for example, you have like a rain pusher. A rain pusher is somebody like that can like make the clouds like give rain. Like I know somebody
yeah,
could just like close their eyes and like call it. But here, it's normal. Like I know it's like a cousin. It's not like, oh, it's some random shaman in the bush. It's like, oh no. Oh, my cousin was so drunk the other day, but he fell asleep and he called the rain. It's like that, like that type of casual use. That's what I mean. And one person will have another thing, ability to do. So that's what I'm saying. If I go to somebody and I've done, and you say these things immediately, like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean call the rain when you're like half done? It doesn't happen, So it's very hard. That's what I'm saying. Like to
I
kind,
would not hesitate believing it. I would not hesitate believing it. I remember reading Crowley's works, if you know him, Aleister Crowley, and they talk about each continent having a certain principality in place. Yeah, he's not that important who he is, but he basically wrote a lot of esoteric books in the 19th century. Um, and in one of his books, he talks about each continent of the world having each different principality, like a spirit controlling or guiding each place. That spirit
yeah,
puts in place
that
the
I would agree
different
for sure. That I agree.
So what we found is that in Europe there's a different type of spirituality. In Africa there's a different type, and in Mexico and in America and so on and so forth, because of these
Yeah.
different spirits that control or are put in place. And so that's what Andreas was talking about, the spirit of California being the inspiration to famous Californians. And what he further talks about is that you can figure out what quality of magic is put in place by looking to the stars and looking to the astrological qualities of each continent. So for instance, Asia represents fire. So there's a distinct fire magic going on in Asia. And Europe represents water. There's a distinct water-based magic going on in Europe. That's how he ordered it.
Oh yeah, no, that is like here, for example, the magic. Even if you want to use a certain spell, and how, like for example, if you want to wish difficulty on someone, I'm talking about like voodoo black magic in general. And if you want to give like difficulty, let's say you're someone and you're jealous of somebody's success, and this is somebody that will do voodoo. Voodoo usually is people who, because they're greedy and they're jealous. Just the normal person does that. And depending on what element they use, for example, it affects the difficulty in their life. So if here, for example, what you would do is, for example, you take wax feet, like, wax like a candle. It has to be a candle, and the feet, like the wax of it, it looks like a pair of feet. And let's say the spell would have to, reference how I just don't want this person to move forward in their life. Whether you throw that in the water, like in the ocean, or you bury it down, because here where I'm like is the desert, so you have to bury it. Definitely different consequences. I prefer and here in Africa, of course, if you use the darker waters, because like the Caribbean crystal blue waters, and then there's like very dark, like dark black water. Depending on which part, like which waters you use, also affects the quality of the spell, I can say, on top on like that type of person. But water that's clean, like crystal, like in Cuba and stuff like that, that's not bad. If you throw it there, it's okay. Like I mean, on the person, on the victim. I'm saying that it's not so bad. But if you throw it like in the middle of like the desert in the ground and you put like rocks in a heap, it's very hard to remove it, you know, like the spell in the victim's life, not the person doing it. That's what the whole point why they want to do it in the actual desert, you know. Whereas in the water, you know, it can be washed away, wishy-washy and all that stuff. So whatever happens to the feet, the wax, candle feet will happen into your life. So the same way the element will affect the feet in the water will also affect you in your life, the problems. So in the desert is very hard, you know, and the sand is concrete. So if they give you a problem and they make it concrete, it's gonna take a really long time to move it. Whereas if you throw it in water, and especially cleaner waters, is a different effect. You know, maybe I think you have a better chance of trying to like.
Could you perform the same magic in Europe?
Oh, no. This thing is everybody performs it. Yeah, the thing is, people. I think is there's a thing, an idea where here you cannot perform it. Anyone and anyone can perform it. You can you just have to want. The thing is with the voodoo is you just have to want to do it. Now, the consequence of other things is another thing. You can be anywhere and everywhere, and you can want to do it. It's not exclusive to how you know what you believe in at all. So that's why I say the voodoo is nice and it's in where it hides, because once you put a face to black magic, for example, and you are tied to maybe only Africans, only Asians, or something like that, for example, it likes that, you know, it likes that, so it can act everywhere else. So then it'll be like, so everybody will be like, oh, but that's not voodoo, you know. So that's the whole point. It wants that. It wants to put a certain face. It wants people to do that, and it wants to stay like that, for example. And it's so hard to talk out of it, you know, so hard to explain, and it will always be hard to explain, and it's not meant to be explainable, you know. That's the already way you're starting from. I think when you talk, you really have to know you're starting from that platform. It's already not meant to be known. God is one thing. I mean, he left a Bible, you're supposed to know. But you know, with dark things, there's other information, it's hidden, but it's not meant to, you're not supposed to know. You know, if you have devil churches that are hidden, you know, why is it hidden? You know, because it's black magic. So that's the same thing about people who are victims of it. If somebody's, let's say, you know, they're being bewitched or whatever it is, the only way you have to beat it is through intelligence, you know. You just have to observe it and know where it goes and where it won't go. And the darkness just doesn't go in the light. So if you do things like, you know, in that sense, it just won't affect you. So there are ways of being, because it's also hard to talk to certain people that would say, oh no, for example, I just don't believe it, so then it won't exist.
What do you think about, there's a lot in Western thought right now. We're talking about mental and astral parasites. And I just posted an interview one of the other days with a psychologist who's been talking to people who have schizophrenia, and he basically they're hearing voices, and he found out there's a consistency to these voices, and that they basically got frustrated with him in the end and wanted to speak to him, and they tried to scare him, trying to produce all sorts of magic to scare him. Many other scholars have told about they use these, they call them diamonds and demons and stuff like that, to aid them in their contract with these beings, and these beings take information from the other world and bring it into our world on orders from the magician.
Here, for example, and I don't think it even has to be in that like tangent. Like here, for example, let's say I don't do witchcraft, but I want to hurt someone using witchcraft. Here, you can hire somebody, and when you hire that someone, that's more or less the way you explain in that type of contract. You can hire, and that, let's say the doctor, what they'll have to do is you can hire like dark spirits, and they'll ask these dark spirits, for example, to keep surveillance on the victim, for example, like, they'll go and watch like how you eat, sleep, what's going in your life. So they just find out what your weaknesses are and where to plague and all of those things. And you also have levels of dark spirits, you know, so that's why somebody, for example, won't be scared. Sometimes it could be a whole demon, but if somebody's not scared, it just simply means the demon also could just not be stronger than that person. That could actually happen. You can actually be with the demon, but if you override that demon, it can actually mean that you know, you just are stronger, because people assume immediately when it's a demon, it's dangerous, you know, you can't defeat and everything. No, like it's just like normal human beings, you know, a baby is weak, you know, but an MMA fighter is strong. So it's there are different types of even spells. There are certain spells you can do many spells as you want, but if you yourself, the doctor, is weak, if your spell is also weak, it can also not take effect on the person. But it does not mean that the person is not practicing the magic at all. But when you, for example, when you do practice it, it is a contract. And that's why I also try to advocate for people not to really try and get into it, because it's you know what, basically this is what happens. Let's say you live a life of struggle, you know, you don't have money, or you don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend, all those things. So what happens here is usually the person, oh, my life is going this way, I don't have money, so I need to go to the doctor to, you know, to use magic to bring something in my life. Okay, so what the person does, and you go, and it's not really expensive here, it's not at all. So you go, and then the doctor, you can tell, oh, no, I want this. Now, usually the people, they don't care how the doctor says, or no, the doctor explains to the person the consequences. You get what I'm saying? They just say, oh, okay, no, in a month, this guy will arrive with this type of money, you know, a husband, for example, he will make you happy like this, but you have to do this. And here in my country, it's very famous, weddings and funerals to be poisoned at weddings and funerals, because what somebody would do is they went to a witch doctor because they want something in their life. So, and usually the doctor will tell, they have to give them one task, because God works on his own. But demons, they need some type of transaction. You know, it's like, okay, I can do that. I can give you this house, this guy, and everything, but I need to make you either poison or kill. You know, we need to work that way, you know. And people tend to forget that part is the slippery slope. So what they usually do is, sometimes it doesn't matter who they want you to kill, but it depends on your type of demand. The higher the demand is more serious. Sometimes you could be a whole mother, and let's say if you want something super serious, like, oh, I want a mansion and this, they'll say, okay, and then that means I want you to poison your daughter, for example. And you do have that, and people will poison their daughters, will get the mansion and the house, but the problem is they don't read the fine print. It only lasts for 3 years. You know, that high, like the demon like will give it to you for 3 years, and since you yourself as a human being are not strong, you already started as a jealous person and greedy, so you want more and more and more. So what happens is that the demon bargains more with you, so you end up finding out you've traded everyone in your family, you know. Sometimes it's not even a death thing, but the demon can be like, okay, no, for you to get that, I want you to disturb this person in your life's life, for example. So meaning if your sister is pregnant with twins, she's gonna have a miscarriage, you know, because that's how demons eat. It's not like, oh, this thing up and you know the punishment is right there. No, it's so silent. You yourself, you're thinking, oh, I'm just having a miscarriage because the doctor told me. No. The baby was fine. The twins were okay. The doctor, he was fine. You know, this person is just doing black magic, and the demon, you know, and people, that's how it hides in people's life, you know, and it hides under those things. You think, and it's like for example, like even in relationships, because here a lot of people use it for relationships, you know, and then when people say we're possessed to do a certain task, it's not like if you're possessed now, you'll be possessed forever. You can be possessed literally just for a few days, for a couple of hours, and do a task and you really forget, you know, and you can do certain things to certain people that you yourself you're doing and you won't even know. So that's what I'm saying. That's how it acts. But there's too many details in life. There's too many problems in life, and people are so absorbed into their own narratives and of self that they don't pay attention. And I'm very patient and very slow. I digest and reflect on any single thing, on every single moment, because I have been in already all these problems. The reason why I know them is because I've been a victim myself. So that's what I'm saying. You know, you really have to see these things and understand how it works. And it's really scary. It's where these dark things come from. Honestly, people are playing. I just think the planet is playing too much. They really don't understand.
You're confirming what he has experienced already with these demons and these intelligences, having different layers, having different personalities, being mixed up in contract, and also that very, very, very important detail about, yeah, just because it's spiritual contracts doesn't mean that they don't adhere to what contracts do, being that they have a time limit, they have a life. Every contract has a life.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting term for a contract. It has a life. So
Really?
yeah, people don't know that. If they knew that, it would be much easier for them to get into you know, bargaining with these demons, because it would, if you know commercial law, you could outdo these demons in a heartbeat.
You really can. That's what I say. You just have to be intelligent. I had to get intelligent because, you know, when it starts eating up your life, what are you gonna do? Because the demon for that goal is for death. If it has nothing else to eat, you'll be the last person you have to die. And dying, that would mean you find that, oh, this person committed suicide, or there was a car crash. It hides like that. Or this person this, because it's so fun. Like here in my country, like in the villages, you find that some family got so rich so quickly, and then 3 months later, after getting so rich, the firstborn dies, for example. The entire village knows that the parents bargained that child. Immediately we know, without any talking, without anything. The moment we see some random family, first you were poor, you got so rich so fast, all of a sudden you have these are many cows, that are many this, and cars and houses, and then in 3 months your son dies. Everybody immediately knows what it is. They know it's that magic, but here's so taboo. But in my country, but in other countries, if you do practice, you go to jail and you have to pay a fine, like a $500 fine, for example. In some tribes, they burn you alive if you're a witch. But here, it's kind of, here it's like, oh no, it's okay. This is how we are, because this is how.
But
I mean, yes.
people can easily see how Hollywood works now, because when, for instance, Morgan Freeman came out of the blue from nothing from zero to hero, and then a couple of years went by, and then his daughter or nephew died, and most of these Hollywood successes have examples such as these. It's very easy to see that they're just performing black magic,
It's like
and
that
they end up in
guy.
a black hole.
Wait, who's that guy? I think he's Scandinavian. The CEO that lost those 3 kids in Sri Lanka.
Oh yeah, was he a Danish guy from?
Yes. Like he was like the richest. I can't remember those things, how rich he was, or whatever. And then it's like,
he's
oh,
a
he lost
Danish,
3 kids.
Danish CEO for bestseller. My father
Yes.
knows some of his colleagues. It's very tragic for my family. They were very tragic.
It's very sad, these things. And that's what I'm saying. All these things are all levels of witchcraft. You get what I'm saying? Oh, there's one small act in the house, what if you're just terrorizing a family member, compared to also doing, attacks like this, for example. The dark controls, like, so much. And it's not like they control and they're doing this also out of nowhere. It's also another part where how far we allow certain things. I also think that's the part we really forget. It's more about how far we allow it. It's really that, because devil is devil, he will be there. God said it too. The devil is there, and God also believes in, for example, he believes in, he thinks there's good warfare. He believes it trains the muscle of, like, if you give somebody a problem and they override, it trains the muscle for them to be a bit stronger and have more faith. So the idea of evil completely being gone, I don't know if that will happen. You get what I'm saying? But I just assume that's just natural spiritual selection, in that sense. People given problems, the ones that can override it can, who cannot, better like next life type thing. So that's what I'm saying. There's more how to do with that part, I think, of how much we allow all these things. And it's really that. It really is more about that.
It's about tolerance, actually, because what the psychologists found out, that these demons, they have strong dislikes for certain kind of things. They scream when you hear good music. They scream when you read spiritual literature. They don't like people talking truth in arguments. I could imagine if someone was pointing out that there's no scientific evidence for gravity, that these parasites would scream in agony. So now you know how important it is to bring up truth topics around your family's homes, because these parasites will not have a good time.
Oh yeah, no. And I'm those people. Every morning you throw a prayer, you're burning this type of wood, you have to plant a tree here, and then you have to place this window. Like, I'm like that already. So these things do, because it's not nice to have demons sucking your entire life. It's really not. Everything falls apart, and it goes slowly. And then when everything goes, even if you know the truth, it makes people not believe you. That's what I mean. And then it's supposed to play with your mind, so to make you like kill yourself in a sense, or not kill yourself, or just get so depressed and stuck. It wants that. It wants to suck
They
everything.
tell people to kill themselves constantly. They tell people you're not good enough, kill yourself. and you can hear
all
that voice inside your head.
And people really think those voices and they laugh. They're like, oh, you're crazy. And I'm like, guys, you're playing with somebody's life here. And then you know what's sad? What's sad is when that person actually kills themselves. Then 1 week later, people, oh, and then, I actually realized this. And then I saw that. I'm like, you know what? You guys are the worst human beings. Also, the people, the compassion level. I myself, I feel like I've seen people and bad things, and the way I think we exaggerate how compassionate human beings really are when they're really not. People are really greedy, and I think they really show that mask. And this is not even, it would be even better if I was even talking about Hollywood people. At least they know money and something. Imagine when you are seeing people with even nothing, just killing themselves and just doing stupid things. And I see that here all the time. And it's not like they know outside and that there's more. They just know this is just my surrounding and how I act. But that's what I'm saying. It's even sad. I've seen people like it just takes just as much as a small handbag. For example, here in my country, the minimum wage here monthly is $90. Yeah, it's $90. And you need at least $300 a month here to keep afloat. We are not violent people, we're not people who will protest and everything. So, and I do believe the government takes advantage of that, because our tribes are very timid people. We won't act out physically whatsoever. So if the governments don't see any of that, they just continue. Those who make it $90, everything will raise. So that's one of the problems we're having now. So
They have orders to keep the African people down because you would be such an inspiration if you became free and we saw you stand on your legs and kicking off your governments. We would feel so awkward.
It really is bad because here it's so horrible. First of all, my country is like 2 million people. And our produce, we produce the most diamonds in the world. I think we have the capacity of producing about 33 million carats per year.
Wow.
And we're only 2 million people. And I know the diamonds they find, one already. And these are precious stuff, clear everything, it's not even like the industrial ones or the cheap type. It's like the really, really beautiful. And recently, I think the biggest diamond they found, I think within the past 5 years was from here. But how, you find that we're still living on $90, everyone, and we're 2 million people. We're not even a lot. You could literally just take a couple of diamonds, and even if you divide up that's what I mean. It's insane of how they really do loot in a certain way, and they take advantage and all of those things, because it's like we're not even a lot. It's not even robots, it's us working. We pull them out, It's this thing. They've created culture here in my country where you must work for the mines and you must work for corporate, type so here people feel a lot of pride when they work for the government or like a diamond company or something like that, but it's just a paycheck. And also legally, my country, someone from my country cannot own a mine. They cannot own a diamond mine legally. You cannot. Someone from my, they cannot do that. So already that puts you in a position of failure and all those things, and the countries for failure. And
the middle class down. They don't want to see an African middle class.
oh, and what's even worse beyond the diamonds is also the tourism. Again, in the north, my country has the most expensive safaris in the world. One chalet, like one little hut, costs $3,000 one night. And when I went there, I've seen those guys for like the presenters for like. Yeah. No, but it's trophy hunting, and I'm talking about rich people. It's like you go trophy hunt. You want to kill the elephants, you want to kill the hippos, and if you want to be served, and that's why, for example, like what's those people's names? Mary and Harry, all those people, the royals, they go there a lot because nobody bothers you. We don't care. It's really nice. It's so beautiful. We've never had a war, and the air is really fresh out. There's a lot of space. Here, 50. No infrastructure. No infrastructure. We're very slow. The thing is, we build huts. How the way you build a house is cow dung and sand. So if you want to talk about how great and sustainable all of that is, that's fabulous. But we don't have like skyscrapers and so many buildings, and the problem with that is because we're such a low population, so it's like already if you build those things it will be empty. It's that's why it's so hard to put businesses also here, because you need a certain amount of people coming in a day. Like, for example, McDonald's won't come here because you need X amount of people to come in already here daily for it to be a fill for the year. And that's why a lot of businesses can't thrive here. And also, we don't have a consumer culture. It's very traditional. It's so hard to start a business because you have to convince them to buy so hard because we've never been stuck in front of a TV for so long. And you see, I live off in a bush, like, so the Wi-Fi right now, it's funny. And then
It's amazing we can even
we
talk
can
together.
even talk together. Okay, wait, no, now it's fine. No, it's because where I live, the tower, I don't know how it reaches, so that it always affects. It's not even like the Wi-Fi in the house. I just think it's like the network connection just in the area because I live very far off grid. It's like a village right next to the city, I think. Yeah, it's like a village. The way for example, the country is structured is people of the country can own 51% of the land. So right now, if I go to the land board and I apply for a piece of land, they will give me a plot after maybe 10 years, for example, given that I developed the land itself. So the house I live in now with my mom, this type of plot, it was my grandmother's. So my grandmother gave it to my mom, the land, and then she built on it. And I think you're allowed to own it for like 99 years. Yeah, for about 99. Yeah, 99 years. But since my country's we're under 60 years old, nobody yet has gone to 99 years. So we still have to wait to see. But that's what I'm saying here. People, the way things are run, you need to understand that you already have to have a consumer culture for a lot of other problems also. But here for business, it's also difficult in that sense because I realize people really haven't been in front of the TV to really get advertising like that to them, because if you explain to an African like, oh, this is a diamond, they'll be like, okay, what that's it. What can I use it for? But if you ask maybe somebody from France, this is a diamond, already they know the value. But how do they know the value? Where did you get that number from? They had to be marketed that through the TV. So they know the value. Immediately they know what to do with it. They immediately think, oh no, I can sell it. So they'll get excited. Whereas here, you show them a diamond, it's like, wait, so why should we get excited for? No, but the value, but where? Where does it value? Who do we give it to? So it's very difficult to sell like that in that sense. It's like, they'll ask you, really, why do I need it? They really will ask you. And then you realize how marketing really works because then people only buy diamonds just because it can only be broken by another diamond. I feel like that's what they use as the slogan, like that factor of a diamond. It really has, and that's the only reason why it makes people kind of want it and how it shines. But in actuality, the functionality of it is really not much. So here, it's so hard, and that's why I also think that's why it's difficult to also control Africans because I realize it's so hard to sell to them. It's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
No, but I think they know minerals in sense of just the functional. I think that one, like maybe silver and like gold, those are the ones. We know the value of those ones because in the history of that tribe, they found a way to kind of use it. Whereas they say the diamonds, but this is exclusively to my country, and I think we have about 26. Really, the way it works, even the black magic, they even have the dark spirits in actual physical form. Like it's so hilarious. I actually had somebody tell me like she was on the bus and she says like how it's so normal, but this is just in some villages that people do so much black magic and voodoo, like the dark spirits have come in full form. But working, you go on the bus, you're going to work in the office. It's just going to work to do what it needs to do, like on the contract. It's so, but you can't look at it. It's not look and say hi. I mean, that's the worst idea you could do. But
Well,
that's what
I've
I'm
heard
saying.
that these shadow people, they are apparently able to do all sorts of things if you look at them. They don't like you looking at them. Then there was this guy who was seeing them. It's like the same shadow people see when they are experiencing sleep paralysis. And
Oh yeah.
when he looked at them and he stared into the shadow being would call on other shadow being, and more would come, and they would start circling around him. And then these two people that were together who saw them, they would go into their van, and then the shadow people would circle the van, and they would make the van tip, like slowly tipping, as if they were exerting
Oh
some kind
yeah.
of force.
Oh, yes, things like that could happen. Like, oh, and you know, in Lesotho, I don't know if it's Lesotho or Swaziland or something, you know, in the Kotla is like a traditional ward. Like, you know how you have presidents and mayors. So the way you govern the tribes, you have the chief, and the chief needs to govern it from an office called the Kotla, basically. And in these kotlas, for example, like they have what you call it, the dolls. I don't know if you know, there's certain types of what you call it, African dolls. Also here they use, like for example, let's say if I want to disturb you in your life, I can take a doll to the witch doctor, and they can possess the demon in that doll. And then they say if I give it to you as a gift or something like that, so when you are sleeping, it'll act like, it'll move like fully, but when you're awake, it looks like a normal doll, everything. It doesn't move, nothing. Here, that happens a lot. Like, you know, and you wouldn't even know what's going on in your life, you know. It wouldn't, but it's in the house, you know, pushing and plugging and doing all sorts of things. But you wouldn't even know, and it's the doll. So I don't accept dolls at all. It doesn't have to even be an African looking doll. It can even be a Barbie doll, and they know how to, you know, make it move and do all of these things. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Things like even sleeping, for example, here when you sleep, there's this thing here. It's called this, you know, the sleep arrest thing, and then you know when there's like dark spirits and stuff. Those things is called tokolosi here in this in my country. They call it that. And for example, if you're female, it can live like your husband. Like it's so hilarious. There's a saying like it can, like it acts like your husband, and it does things for you. So let's say if you're sad, it can come to you and even be like, but these are the ones that, you know, vile people. You know, like they're very depressed and they want to wreak havoc, and they actually live with the black magic and the actual dolls in full form and talking form. You just you won't see it, of course, you know. And it can ask you, look, how are you? Are you fine? And it will feel sad, like a husband, you know. And then if you say, oh no, this person made me mad, and it will go disturb that person. So that here is normal. And here in Lesotho and in Swaziland, like I was saying, the there's a law that you cannot fly your broom. Witches can't fly their brooms. Like it's a thing. Like people fly brooms. There are photos all the time. But I have a lot of African pages on like
yeah.
Facebook. And you will see
And,
like, oh
and the
no, a
flying
witch fell from the
brooms,
sky. Yeah, they
the
fly
flying
on
brooms.
brooms.
Yeah, the
Oh
flying
yeah,
broom thing would be the same thing as when you see some teenage girls in a coven making a circle and having a girl
yeah.
levitate. They're basically employing the spirits to do it for them.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. It is like that, really. And but here you have witch doctors, like you can that heal these things also, like they can heal also the bad, you know. But they also have ancestors they also have to obey to. And they have a
Mm.
certain way of living, and they can't do whatever they want, you know. I mean that people, yeah, I know that like celebrities, like for example in South Africa, like it could be like a rapper or something, and then the next day you see them posting, oh yeah, I got my calling to be a witch doctor, and you'll see them, they'll do the whole traditional process. There's a whole process to it, and they have to train the other doctors and everything. They have to obey everything the ancestors tell them. It's not like they choose it, you know. It's like, look, you have this calling, and if you don't abide to it, you will still have problems in your life. You're allowed to choose not to be a witch doctor, but if you don't follow it or choose it, you will always have problems because you can't fight destiny. You know, Africans know that ish, when it's destiny, whether if you like it or not, you really cannot fight it. So that's why people just really end up having to do it and just doing that part, because you have to listen to the ancestors and spirits and all that stuff. They they're very powerful. So you know that you cannot really fight it whatsoever. So and like there are brooms, witches flying. There are also mermaids, like in Mozambique. Oh, like there's so many islands. I think there were so many stories where I think there was a time, I don't know if it was America or like Canada or something. I can't remember which country it was, but they were trying to build certain resorts on some islands in Mozambique. And Mozambique is so beautiful. The water, like, you know, crystal, it's like again the Caribbean, and they have beautiful coral reef and all that stuff. But there were these islands that were trying to build these resorts and hotels, and the locals were keep on telling like you shouldn't do that because like there's like mermaids and they come and they'll attack you. So these guys, and the locals also saying like we also tried. What would happen was like they would go construct, build everything. The worker they'll all go to sleep. They'll come back. Everything was gone. Everything. And they'll do that for a month. They did that for a month. Like they'll go back construct. I'm talking about even the JCBs, like the constructing machines, everything gone. They'll try again. New company. Oh, you guys are playing. Look at this island beef. Let's put a resort. They do that. But there's so many stories. Even online, you can actually check on Mozambique about like even people that like let's say went to go to the river to wash clothes and they were abducted by mermaids. And these are not like the pretty ones like Disney ones. There are types of mermaids. There are pretty ones, like those are the clear water ones, and then the dark water ones. Oh, those ones are ugly and vile. And these ones, the victims, they were with the mermaids under the water, all these things for like 20 years, and they come back, and you can hear them. They can tell the stories, but it's normal. It's like it's a normal thing. It's not like it only happened to one person, but that's what I'm saying. How normal the magic is.
In Denmark, we have a statue of a little mermaid, and we have a mermaid skeleton on display in one of our museums. It's very downplayed fact in Danish Wikipedia, but it's very interesting that we have that. And reading a book about Tartaria last night, they were like talking to this Tartar in the 1800s traveling through Tartaria, and he was like, yeah, my ancestors, they lost a war between humans and mermaids, because when they sailed out to sea to try to battle with the mermaids, they would like fire their arrows into the water and be like completely useless. The mermaids would just swim around the water and outmaneuver them and fly up in the air and shoot their arrows and kill them.
Oh yeah, no. For me, I know mermaids to be real. Like especially in Brazil. Brazil for me is those types of countries. Like if I saw like news saying that they found all those missing ships in Bermuda and all that stuff long ago, and they say they found it in Brazil, I wouldn't be surprised because when I was there, it was like it was eerie. I understood, for example, why Rio had the Jesus Christ cross on top of the hill. Like it was like Sin City to the maximum. I have seen things people do. I didn't even know people could do those things in broad daylight. Like especially carnival time.
Jesus statue up there is Jupiter, and Jupiter
Yeah.
represents everything that is wrong right now, because Jupiter is about expansion and greed and doing everything you need to do in order to get what you want, and power. He loves power, and he's very sexually depraved in the age of Pisces. So it fits perfectly, I would say, that you have a statue of Satan, or otherwise known as Jesus.
He's talking about the Jesus Christ on Rio de Janeiro. It's a different thing.
But yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but the Parasites
Oh,
have
no.
perverted the symbology, and they have demonized Pan, the horned goat man, and made him into Satan. But the real Satan is actually Jesus. And I have a book on Freemasonry, wherein it is admitted that the highest secret of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry is that Jesus is Satan.
Honestly, I just feel like I don't know what was going on there. Brazil, it was the biggest, whether if it was in the statue or in the air, it was definitely undeniable. There, I swear, I saw people literally with full on black eyes. And I'm not talking about like tattooed or anything. Like there, the way, they had no mercy.
I've seen
Oh
those
no, it's
guys
crazy.
before. It's connected to the Black Goo. I saw a guy with black eyes on the Canarian Islands, and I know on the Canarian Islands that Angela Merkel, she comes there every Easter, and she walks in the mountains by the volcanoes, and I think it's because there's a lot of black goo there. And black goo, I think black goo has to do with that black eyes, those black eyes, because we've seen it in series that black goo get into like some people and then possess them. They turn their eyes turn black.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But people, no, that happens all the time because, for example, like in the way the family structure here is, it's very normal for somebody to possess a certain power. a certain skill. For example, one, you find that a sister can do a certain reading, and then you can find this guy can do like a spiritual sense. It's actually very normal here that people can do these things. For example, for me, I can, for example, it's more about memory. That one is more about the people's memories in the mind. That one I can do people's readings of memories in the mind, but it's more about just to guide them in general of how the situation is going at the moment, and then how you have to explain to them how it's going to transition to the next stuff. It's nothing beyond that. It's not like, oh, you can talk to dead people and all that stuff. But I do know people that will talk that can do something solely like that. And you even have like Ghostbusters here. Like you see that doll I was telling you about and all that stuff. So you can have somebody can be spiritually attacked, and they could be attacked by like a snake, but it's in spirit form. And this guy, for example, he works like a ghost by. I don't know how to explain the word, but it's another word in my language. And he comes, for example, immediately he can see it, and then he can remove it. But then you have to have a certain prayer to for you to see it in full physical form, like you see, and then he will show you like this thing, and he will literally fight with the actual thing. For you, you're seeing him fighting the air, you know, but like you actually see him actually, you know, removing, whether he'll tell, oh no, there's a snake here, or there's this type of spirit. Or sometimes the person can actually have the symptom inside the body, like they made a spell, for example, for a guy to, I don't know, just be sick in the belly, or even not to be able like to produce kids or something like stuff like that. And then you'd have to like suck it all out, and you will see like it'll be black. It's very bad. It's very bad. Black magic is horrible. Like the demons, what they do really to people, you would be horrified. And I feel like if people really actually knew what really evil and dark is, if they really knew what it does to the human being and what it does to like life in general, I don't think actually they'll really consider it whatsoever. But then that's why I do understand Hollywood now. That's why you always have to promote bad things. You know, it does connect back to in the music and in the TV and all of that stuff, you know, always seeing those things. You
So
have to always promote people to do that. You always have to make that environment all the time. So that's what I'm saying. It will always be hard to know. So I
what is
understand
your
Hollywood.
personal interest in the occult or so-called magic? What drives you into it?
Okay, for me, my personal, okay, I would just say from the beginning in general how I approach these things. I grew up in, well, my father, my grandmother, are very Catholic, Roman Catholic. My father, for example, I would go to church. Also, at that time, I didn't believe. I just did for the sake of, you know, my country is very Christian in that sense, you know, God, stuff. We also have Muslim communities and Indians and all of that stuff like that, mosques. So there are many different, you can practice many things actually. But for me, for in general, I was not, I think I was started in a confusion in a sense. But then when I moved, I met some people, then I think I got more into reading like Buddhism and all of their philosophies in general. And then I also had a friend that would explain to me. And I think that's when I started getting more interested into these things and started seeing spirituality and how, because she just started explaining things like how words affect, you know, your manifestation, you know, those types of things. I didn't know, you know, I'll be somebody who just say things, you know. So I just started taking care of those things in the beginning. Then I just started getting interested into those things. But then that was just the good parts, I think, you know. It's so easy to just throw some crystals and sage and be kumbaya and everything. But then you have other stuff, like in my country, like the dark stuff. I think that's when I learned here from my country, because in my country, you also still have cannibalism also. You wouldn't know it, but to do the tasks for these demon contracts, they'll tell you you need to eat like this type of human. It's not like you're gonna go kill the human being, because there are already witches that have the body packaged. And also here, for example, when it's election time, they always tell you, oh, be careful, like in taxis, because people kidnap for muti. Muti is juju, like, you know, they kidnap they kidnap you, and when the potion is most powerful, if they remove a body part, they kill you for the body parts. But for the body part to be powerful in the potion, you have to remove the body part alive. And the most powerful part of the body in the potion will be the genital area. So, and the most powerful part of the body from the type of person you have to get it from, it will be a child. So you find so many people bleeding to death with their genitalia gone, and they'll be children, you know. But it's made for muti. It's made for this type of what do you call it, potion, for people who feel, this person, she got this promotion and I was supposed to get it, so I'm going to do this magic so I can get the promotion. Then they go do the contract. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, okay, so you have to buy this muti and eat it. So they'll go and eat that, you see. But that's just the low level. That people that will have to directly eat the whole human being. I've been to a church here, for example, never go back. Here, I choose personally not to go to church. I like God, I believe in God and all those things, but I personally not choose to go to church here specifically because here the churches are like, they're called fire. They're called fire churches, which is like demonic church. They look like a church and they do everything like a church and everything, but it's fire. Like, a lot of people give them a lot of money and they do a lot of demonic things, here. So I just decided not to go to church because once I went to church, it was a beautiful one, had a big building, everything, and had what you call underground parking. And for us Africans here, underground parking is like, whoa, you got underground parking? Like, how's that possible? Because so they have, it was really fancy, so all that stuff. But my friend just recommended to go there just so to see what it was. So first, what was crazy was they had first said like, oh, okay, so you guys are gonna get everything that you need. So everybody gets excited. Okay, fine. So if you guys want this, you need to commit to this church for 7 weeks. Okay, that people that went to the church for 5 years. For those 7 weeks, you need to give up, I think, 10% of your salary or the money that you earn in your life or something like that, monthly or something like that. So that's when the things started getting tricky. And then they started bringing out pamphlets. People had to write down how much money like they were making and all of those things. Okay, that section passed by. It was already weird because me and my friend was the first time going to this church. We were already looking at the place weird and all that stuff. And then the guy called people up. He's like, oh, for anybody who has been plagued with problems in their life, just come upstage. So people were going up. And I remember one female, I was so scared. And she had really like extension, like afro hair and everything. You should have heard her voice. It was not a female voice. It was like a demon voice. And like her eyes were half rolling back. And she was talking. She was saying, oh, I was having a dream that I was eating fish and chips, but I wasn't eating fish and chips. Like she was explaining the position, how it was going on. She was saying when she was possessed, she was eating. But when she was like her as a human being, she thought she was eating fish and chips, but she was actually eating a dead human being right there now, And then the priest was just like, okay, guys, bring your hand up and scream fire. So people just started bringing their hands up and started screaming fire and like throwing their hands. I was just like, what is going on? And then she started vibrating and I think it was like, like the exorcist thing. They were really trying to clean out the spirit. But for me already, the church is iffy. So I don't know if they were just really cleaning her out to use her again type of situation. Because you do that, You could serve a church, like you can be a simple church goer, but you don't know you're being used for certain tasks. You just know you're committed to a church, you're just going there and you're just hearing the word of God as you think, but you're really not. But you find that, they're making you do so many things and then you have to come back and say, hey, I thought I was eating fish and chips, but I'm eating a whole dead human being, So that's why I'm careful, specifically here in this country. I wouldn't go to the churches, and they hide so well. And it's not like we have this era where, we had these beautiful built churches and they look like that. No, it could literally be a church in a normal random house. All you just need is passing the people. So that's why I say it's so easy for it to hide. It's not like these beautiful medieval churches and the cloaks. I'm not talking about that way. It looks obvious it's even like a church at all. Here we don't have that already. Like I was explaining the infrastructure. We don't have that infrastructure. So it's just the houses and the buildings, Even clinics look like that, and some hospitals even look like that. Yeah, I even think sometimes they use that word Christian just to hide it so people can even blame it. I just think it's just a cult. I just even think, a demon is demon. And I'm not, I believe in God and all, but I also understand. I also could read the Quran as much as I could read the Bible. It's not like it's a thing of, oh, no, it's just that. It's just like, I really do understand the perspective. After, for example, seeing how much witchcraft and evil does, I really just start understanding why Muslims pray that much all the time. It's so hard. And that's why I started thinking, that's why it's so hard to bring down that nation, because it's so hard to enter it. Because if you're constantly praying morning and afternoon and evening, and if you're praying before you eat, and you really cannot it's so hard to enter in that type of home and that type of union and that type of stability in that sense. So I sometimes end up thinking maybe that's why maybe the world is mad, because maybe it's so hard to just go in it, it's hard to be inside because you never hear the story from the inside out, like, but in that tangent, it's always just from the outside is this, but yet it's still thriving in there because, if you're praying so much, it's so hard. But here, and when I say fire church, it could be like a random girl could be like, oh yeah, no, I want to get married because my parents are pressuring me, so I have to go somewhere. And some girl will be like, oh no, come to my church, I'm telling you, you'll find this type of guy or whatever. And then this pastor, you go to the pastor, be like, oh pastor, I need this type of guy because my family is pressuring me. And the guy will be like, okay, no, just pay me 50,000 as a blessing, and you get the right guy. But when you hear these stories, how they end up, it's so tragic. You find that sometimes that girl even ended up dead, or they stole so much, basically doing more devil work. Basically, it just sounds like it, So it's literally a church, the office, just to do. It's like you're looking for the agent of the devil to just continue doing more work and more work. But the problem for me is not really the devil in that sense. It's just people are weak. People are weak in the sense of, oh no, I need a husband, but they don't want to wait 10 years, for example, to actually create something substantial. So they would rather succumb to these things. And the devil sees that. They monitor these things, they monitor these things. So you really have to, that's why the Bible talks about endurance and self-discipline, God likes somebody who's self-disciplined because it's hard to enter a mind of somebody who has self-mastered themselves. And I really do get it, because I've seen people that is like, fine, you don't want this problem, but you need to also not want it. You also can't be like, I want a husband and then want it in a month. The devil works in a month. God works in 10 years, but he's giving you for life. The devil works in a month, but that guy is leaving, with your entire house and money in 6 months, So then that's why people keep, and then that plummets them in a deeper depression, so they can continue doing all the bad stuff, you see, because they want it now, because, whatever the world has advertised now. If it's in 10 years, that shit, you're not looking for 10 years, you're looking for now. But the only thing that works now is the devil.
Tell me this. People that go to church, being Catholic, a mosque, whatever, they go to these temples only to ask things to be given to them, or to give thanks for what they already have?
Here there's one church that I actually do like, and that one, and it's not a church maybe for like preaching, it's just a church just to go and sing, specifically just to give praise and thanks. It's that type of church, it's like some people maybe they just don't want to hear the word or just too engrossed, but they do like the singing and they just want the spirit. It's something that's actually really bad and heavy. It's like, wow, way to go to hide. But that's the whole point. Voodoo hides in that sense. So the people that actually practice or about it or succumb to it, they have to hide under something. Whereas, I think people that actually are for God or that actually believe in something that's pure and light, they don't feel like hiding. They're just themselves. They are the truth. That's the whole point about everything else. But the dark has to hide. That's how it acts, You have to really, I think, understand more the science of the devil himself and how he works and uses people. That's the only way you can kind of miss it in a way, but it really starts from something small and it can turn into something big. But the entire time, I just feel like you really have to detect it for what it is. Otherwise, there's a power over you, and that's when you lose.
Lucifer always asks, what are your desires? Because that is the ultimate principle everything is ruled by in the house of the devil. Desire.
Exactly. So that's why you understand corporate America, Hollywood, and marketing. Because when you have the normal human being, poverty is the natural state. They don't want anything. They just want food, roof, and to do that day. But you really have to engrave it in their hand, why they want something. So that's why marketing is a thing. So already started from people's desires. So that's why inevitably, people that already have those types of desires, they already have problems, inevitably. So you can't say, no, we have to remove this. No. You just have to you have to delete the entire desire, or recalibrate what you even desire in the first place, Yeah. So if you're already somebody that comes and be like, oh no, I want a big house and a husband, and yeah, you're gonna have problems, because we also market that, like, the human being, honestly, when they have a roof, they have food and affection, already they know that power. they have enough space to understand above, because they have been given the basic human needs, and they feel the earth is respecting them in that sense. Now, America or Hollywood or whatever system is going on now, they make you work for the basic desires, which is food, roof, and affection. You know, that's why love is portrayed in a certain way, so over sensualized, like how it's supposed to be. And food and all of these things, the way food, like here in Africa, people already assume the West hates food. You know, they see people in Europe, for example, 2 ounces of food on the plate. They see how food is wasted and how they inject things into it. Whereas here, I know it's normal for Africans when you eat, like it's a whole feast. Like even the plate, like it's full of food, and the way the relationship, the human to food is beautiful. Like you eat, you celebrate food, you eat it, you feel happy a while. Whereas I'm like, oh, calories, you have to lose weight, you have to do, there's so much science to the food, but not the actual food itself. So they make you worry about those things, so you never actually know yourself beyond. So if you're worried about paying rent for the house and putting food on the table, because I always say, like, for example, like I know some guy with his kids, the way he's talking to them, he was just like, oh no, but I'm entitled to this because I provide. I'm like, you see, that's why I'm saying life is sad. You're gonna go your entire life, the money, it makes you feel right, like in a house, that just because you have money and you're providing to buy food means nothing. It just means you have money to give food, but it does not mean you are great, does not mean you are horrible, does not mean you have not explored yourself. All you just know is you got money and bought food. God already can do that. There's even like a scripture and like a phrase where he says, like, birds, they don't worry about a barn or food, but yet they still eat every single day. And yet they have no limit of flying the sky. And so I feel like that makes sense, because when I feel like, okay, I'm eating well for the whole week, and I have, I'm not worried about paying anything, and I'm around people that do care and have a certain thing, it's so easy for me to think, oh, you know what, let me start a business. Oh, let me do this, because you're not worried about those things. But then the moment you're in those situations, and then people, when those situations do go wrong, people are trying to fill that void, So that's why it's so easy to feel, oh, buy this so you feel better, weigh that, and so this, and then it's so easy. And I've seen people are so insecure. People, the confidence is so hard to see confidence in people. I look at them all the time, and that's what I'm saying. The devil likes that. People, you're not confident whatsoever. Even me, even if I'm scared, I try not to just be scared. I will just say I'm not scared, even though I'm feeling it all. You just have to fight it in that sense, But people, they're waiting for such a huge pity party, Like I can talk to someone that have a problem, they're just waiting for you to just be, oh no, but you, I know it's sad, it's sad, it's sad. I'm like, but guy, this is life. It's inevitable. You wanted, that was the desire you had in the first place, so you have to deal with it. So it's the desire. It has to come from the intention. I also had to change everything. I just had to be like, okay, I have to want different things. And I changed the things I wanted to abstract things. Instead of saying, oh no, I want to feel like this when I'm this age. It's like, what? I just want wisdom and to just die, on a good roster, and just live well and happy. That's it. Whether if it's with 5 million or $5,000, I don't know. But here we know if it's going to be on 5,000 or 5 million. But it's something that we're not even supposed to worry about in the first place. But that's what we're always worrying about, and that is the main goal. So inevitably, that is why the planet will always be like this. So you just have to change the want in general. How are we going to do that? I don't know. I really don't know, because we're on the phone now. So it's a real problem. But I mean, that's why I say thank God. Yeah. But that's why I say thank God for Africa, because I live a life like that, where if I live, in a bush, far trees, I live with animals, which is hard, because last week I got bitten by a scorpion. I had to spend 5 days in the hospital on 5 types of narcotics. And it was very horrible for the pain. And I had to tell them the second day to stop using the heavy opioids, just because I saw those documentaries about the opioid crisis in America. And then I had to tell the nurse, like, please. And then they told me that even the nurses that was there, like helping me, were addicted to the opioids. For example, you see drugs, depending on the level of the drug and how strong it is, drugs act like a portal for the demon. And that's one thing. And since, for example, I can read memory, when I was staying in Rio, in the favelas, for example, first of all, it's very sad. it's not like it's a community where they feel hope or anything in general. It's just very impoverished, like horrible conditions. The human being does not feel safe whatsoever. I saw babies that were taking like heroin at 5 years old, for example. Kids at 8, no sex, violently already. So it's a thing like, but the drugs play such a huge role. It was the main role right there. And I've seen with the different types and levels of drugs that people take, you also have a different type of devil and demon to that drug. And I know it acts like it's the amount that you take, like the more drugs and the heavier, the bigger the demon and the worse, basically. It's like that drug, what is it called? Is it Flakka? You turn full on demonic, immediately you eat blood and chew on live, like you turn like that. You start frothing at the mouth. I don't even know why people even aspire to take it whatsoever. But their videos is horrible. You should even see how the face turns in the eyes when people take the flag, or was it bath salts? I can't remember what it is. But I mean, then you have other. But but I think drug just means for me is it just opens a certain part of the brain, and that which makes it so vulnerable it makes you so vulnerable, and it's meant that the demon just goes in there. And when I say drug is meant like you're not supposed to take that drug because you to create that portal. I don't think it's the actual substance itself that it could be the issue. I just think the drug means, for me, when I hear drug, I think portal. And I think portal, I think the demon is going in, because when you do, for example, memory reading, you need natural light in the eyes. So that's how you can evaluate like a human soul. Like that's how I evaluate the person in terms of how good and bad. I navigate like that on how good and bad. Good and bad meaning in the memory, I can tell somebody did something bad, like steal money from a bank or rape somebody, or all those things, especially in real. That was the best thing I could navigate myself with. You get into a cab, you look in somebody's eyes, you can tell immediately what that person has done and what they will do. So if I could see that immediately, I would not be in the cab. But since I know somebody, for example, who can just see that in general, though, we just go, just a human being, just a taxi man, But then you find out that in 6 minutes, that person became, headlines, or this girl got killed in a cab. So that's how I navigate, and literally I've been in many situations like that. But you could already just see it in people's memory and just how carnal they are. Now, when somebody takes a drug, the natural light in the eye changes. So that's why I can tell if somebody's possessed or even under a drug. I can even tell the drug that they took. You can be possessed also under cocaine, and heroin, and but it depends how long you take it and also how strong the mind already is. That's also another factor. There are people that can take cocaine for many years, but if the brain is already strong, it depends on how the devil can also work with itself and within the body, or even can even enter it. So it doesn't. Also, there's so many other factors. It's not also like, oh, you immediately take a drug, you're possessed. No, there's so many other things, but it's definitely a factor when somebody is possessed. If you know they are taking drugs, definitely that is like a point. But drugs definitely do have a certain level, because shamans, of course, they use. And now they do that ayahuasca one and all those things, So they use certain drugs. Even here, they use certain drugs to enter in a certain part of the brain to get certain information and messages. You see, it's a portal. So just like here in us. Now, pharmaceuticals, that one I don't know. That one I really don't know so much about. And I think that the worst, I avoid, Western medicine in general. As an African person, because we have other remedies, but me as an African, I just avoid hospitals. I avoid syringes and pills, and words that have E and E at the end. I don't like them. So I stick on the herbs and all of that stuff. Like if I get a flu, I drink a lemon. I won't take a pill. It's the other things. But there's too many details and how everyone can enter it, and we've already injected all of it into the society. And it's impossible to even know about the evil, because it's not meant to be known, because if it's known, then the evil won't be there. But you can't promote it, because even if you promote, even like now, I also try to avoid too much talking about like black magic and witchcraft and everything, because it knows when you're talking about it, because it comes to you now, So it's so by the time, even if you want to start something, really, and talk solely just on witchcraft and how it works and all those things, it's impossible, because you end up finding that you die. And how you die is, one way witchcraft kills people is like not heart attacks, but you find that they make the heart swell up, and then you have like some type of attack or anything, and then it'll swell back down. So then when you get to the doctors, they just don't know what happened. So when you see those stories where doctors can't find out what really happened, or it looked like there was no problem in the body, but you just had a heart attack, it's because that's witchcraft. An African being in Africa, like if people coming in, even if they tried, it would be so hard. That's why they couldn't stay in Africa the first time. They had to take them. I don't think initially they even wanted to go in the first place. When Europeans, like, they came, of course, they took things, but I believe that all of them really did want to stay. But they didn't.
After like a war of some type, like, or a
No,
huge
I don't
catastrophe.
think it's a war. Yeah, of course some war would have to happen, because it seems like here will be the only place with fresh land and air and space. But by that time that actually happens, but also presidents nowadays, they do make better decisions for the people. I do see that here and there, and there have been some things, and it is getting a bit better. So probably by even that time, they would have set up a system so strong. I do believe, like, so developed. So even if they tried, enjoy the good things, but for like foreigners, for example, they get to enjoy. I can go to the north and enjoy the zebras walking around for $3,000 a night. I don't have that, but the prince of the king in Spain does. He can come and shoot one. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we see those things, and now they put policies now, because people are like, no, it's not fair. And or at least let there be a price bracket for people that are for us. So then eventually through time, the governments do hear these things, and then that will create an effect where they start protecting more, just like how we own 51% of our land now, which is great. Other African countries don't have that. They really don't own anything, like in South Africa, for example. A lot of people, they fight because the land, the ownership, but where we own for 51, and then I think 49 is like privatized and sold and all that stuff. So so I, at least I know in my country, my own country, I have my own land for free. I just have to develop it. So that's nice. And that's one thing. And people observe economies and they can adopt it. And I do believe in that time they'll implement it. And nowadays they want to create their own currencies. Here in Africa, they do. And like Akon, for example, Akon created his own Bitcoin as an African person, and he supplies, I don't know, electricity to how many African countries. So he himself, as an African, owns and supplies, and it's solar, sustainable stuff. So that's just one person, and that creates an effect, of course, all across, and these people, they get investors, they get more people on board. And now I feel like we're in a place where nobody wants to look like the bad guy. So we're kind of making people forced to help Africa just out of their desire not to look like the bad guy. I see that all the time, like here, especially when I was in high school, you have all these American people doing exchange programs to come visit like the hospitals and everything. But some of them just tell me, oh no, we just do this so it looks good on our CV that you visit Africa, it helps these little kids. So it's a thing, it's a business. So you have a Nigerian, usually a Nigerian, because they're very smart. You can never outsmart a Nigerian, who probably make that as a business, like, so you guys don't want to look bad, so help Africa now, but you're going to help us like this. Because now, for example, in Uganda, foreign adoption, people coming, from like celebrities adopting babies here is now not allowed. They're banning it in Uganda and also in Ethiopia. So there's so many new things and new bans, and they see some mistakes. So it's actually moving and working. Of course, it's not going to be advertised. Because I also believe people that come into Africa and take things, they also don't want people in general, the public, to know the good things. Because I do believe if people do come here, they will be like, why should I even go back? I really do. Like my country, I do believe there are many people that do that actually. You have, Hans from Berlin, and like, he was working all his life for this, and then he comes here, the air is fresh, and he bought a house like for 5,000 euros that looks like a mansion. There's no war, there's no like high crime rates, for example. There's like no drugs and all those things. It's just very simple and bush-like, and you can go to a safari whenever you want to do all of those things. So that life, that's what I was saying. I was mentioning the whole Kardashian thing, because they were talking about things that in general African people are laughed at about, we were hunting, we were gathering, we were eating organic, these, beans and berries. The animal itself, how you even kill it is completely different. And how you hear the way we see a cow, we're not saying it's sacred, we do eat the cow, but when you touch a cow, you have to be sure you use the leather, and that's why our traditional clothing is leather. You use the hooves for certain things. The way we approach these things is different. And the land, hunter gatherers, they stay on a piece of land for no more than 3 years, and then they move to a new location so the land can heal. So that's why huts are made out of cow dung and sand. It's not because, oh, we're poor. It's like, no, it's because it's sustainable, because once we're done with the land, because it can't bear more fruits to grow and all those things, we'll break down the hut, the sand goes back, and then they go to the next piece of land. So you see how it all matches and how it flows and how it makes
sense. And it's really an alchemical story about the cycles of nature and how we're all part of this, and how this is the spiritual winter and we're coming into spiritual spring. And the way to
I had an astrologer friend, actually, Tom. He was explaining to me about how certain cities have, also like their own star sign, and that's why he was explaining to me about Rio, because it had a certain in school or something like that, and he was explaining the things, and then he was telling me about that whole season thing, about how the Earth, or in general, were in a certain winter season thing, like exactly how you're exactly how you're explaining it to me now.
It is really, some astrologers call it water world because of Pisces and that big Leviathan beast you see in Pisces, and you hear about it in, is it in the book of Revelations, where the big Leviathan emerges out of the water, the beast that came out of the water. That's basically the commercial Western world and banking, and it's Jupiterian in nature, but everybody thinks it's Saturn ruling over this. But really, it's Jupiterian and Mars. It's Jupiter and Mars. There's really a lot of confusion going on in that topic.
Oh yeah, no, the confusion part, I really see it. There's so much confusion. We have it really confused. And I think that part they really execute. I think we are meant to be confused. I just think we're meant to be confused because of the selection. I feel like, every season something comes along new, So I feel like you have to delete the other thing, and the only way you have to put things to confuse, the one that figure it out are coming. I feel like it's that type of sense, Because you look at animals, you don't get sad when they kill the other lion, and it's just part of life. So I feel like that's the same thing about our nature and all these things. It's like people that are strong and
you understand that. I think in animals, you have one thing that is different in animals from people is that we have this body that is basically an artificial intelligence suit. It has its own fears, its own wants. It fears death more than we do. So it tries to supersede us, or the spirit inside of it, because it doesn't want to die. It envies us. And I think the Bible talks a lot about the flesh being like this AI being. It has its own personality and how it fears. And we're not it.
No, that makes sense, because I know in the Bible there's like a saying like, you should never fear what can only just take the flesh away. Only fear what takes the soul away. Something like that. Like, don't be scared. Some people can just murder you, but your soul is intact, No, I do. I really get what you're saying. I really do understand what you're saying. But I mean, I feel like this is like
punishment that we're going. Many see this as a prison and as a punishment, and they might be right in a sense.
No, but if you look at it, if you see with me, I've also learned how to really see how punishment and all these things. Because for me personally, if we had to be seeing things as punishment, definitely would be depressed forever. Because I think with whatever burden, there is a blessing. For example, like you here in my country, we had like a drought, like a heavy drought for like 16 years. So, drought, no food, no nothing. So
Yeah.
Every week they switch off the water daily for hours, so you really had to use your water properly. To check your meter, if you overused your water, you get a certain fine. But desert people, we always know how to use water. Even in your tribe, when you're young, there's a way you use water already. How you wash dishes, the way you wash it, and how you wash your body. I know as a little kid, you have to stand on a rock, and you're only given 2 pounds worth of water to wash your entire body, and it's possible you really can wash your body. But so our science approach to water already is about not using a lot, because there isn't really. There really, 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 really isn't. And there was a drought for like 16 years, and it was really difficult. And then I think I went on a trip to Cape Town, and when I was there was like some type of cyclone thing, or like I don't know what was going on, but it was just raining like heavy. Oh yeah, but I was saying when we were in the drought, we had no water in the dam. Like it was already at negatives already something. Like there was no water in the dams. And when we have no water in one dam, you have to go to another city to use their dams and everything, and all the water was finished. So, and I came back after 3 days, and the cyclone, there was like a few floods and a lot of like trees and power lines broken down, but that eventually was fine. All the dams were full, all the rivers were full, everything. And it's been raining like normal ever since. Well, raining like normal, we get 10 days of rain in 1 year. So that's good. Then, so that's what I'm saying, like, we suffered, for 16 years, but we don't know. It took them 3 days of a cyclone to fill up all the dams. Now you're back to normal, you see. So there's also some parts we ourselves, as much as we can contemplate and speculate and want and desire and everything, there is a certain type of plan, because it was so dry. We know drought. There's no water. We're panicking. Everything. What could fix it? What do we really need? And those people, I don't think anyone really said we need a whole cyclone, because it would talk about the damage it will also cause. But God was like, okay, or whoever, or whatever the winds, here's water, you fix the rest, and we fixed the rest, and there was water. So
There
life
is.
works like that,
I
and some of
agree.
these, yeah. So I do believe in things
But
like that, and I believe, is somebody gonna realize the dream of opening an arena of 100,000 people? You need humans, and you need more humans. I don't think having too many people on Earth is the problem. I think Earth is strong on its own. So I'm just saying that's not the issue we should be focusing on. And I'm saying this because I know most politicians say a lot of these things sometimes to really kind of distract people, to make that the problem. Not like just for Africa in general, but everywhere in general. When they say one town is overpopulated, or when there's too little people here. No, 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 no. The resources are there. We just have a problem of distributing. There's a lot of land,
Yeah,
there's a lot of food, the greed, the power that and like, because and that's another thing devils like to do. Devils like to make people think that if somebody has gotten something good, it is made less, whereas
yeah.
the Bible in the sense is,
Like,
energy, power is limitless. You can have everything, even the next person can have everything. There's too much, you know
yeah,
but the demon, no. You see people doing good. Oh my God, like what about me? Like, so then people rush, like, oh no, since that person has that, I must take that. How it's not fair. So they feel all these. And I also believe in emotional intelligence. Like, you really have to train your emotions. And sometimes, even if you feel something, it should not be the deciding factor on something. And that's why Africans, I think, they raise families on the politics of respect over emotion. Like, you don't choose your spouse over how you feel, like, oh, I love you. It's like, this for here, for example, in my country, if you marry somebody, like a male, if you marry a female, the male has to give that family, I think, about 10 cows. For my tribe is about 12 cows, I think. And if the man wants to marry the female, you have to go to the father and the uncles, and then they have to ask, and they put the price. For example, they say, I want this amount of cows and this, for example. But that's out of just how respect is. It's not really, oh, you're selling somebody. For us, we see it as, okay, no, you see, this family has this daughter, she raised that person properly, look, sent them to expensive schools, bought them clothes, fed them well. Now this man wants to take this woman away. Now I want to know if my daughter's going to be a nice household. Do you have money? Have you taken care of her? So give us these cows so you take care of us. And also weddings, the marriage process, it takes 6 months, because the other tribe, the other family has to meet the other family. It's a whole thing. The couple does not plan the marriage. It's the family. So one tribe, you have the one wedding in the other family, the female's family and the tribe, and then if it's different tribes, and then in the male side, it's out of respect families now know each other, they understand, they've seen whose mother, grandfather, all these people. This guy has given the cows, he's serious, he's shown commitment to this female. Now the family's taken care of, because for us, cows bring wealth, because we have farms. Here's normal. You can even be a top-notch lawyer, but everybody here has a farm. They grow their own food, they have cattle. It's very normal that for people to just have farms. Yeah. So now the cattle go to the farm. They're okay. It multiplies. Cows and land, it multiplies for the family. So that's out of respect. But I mean, if you put another lens on it, which I feel like people put it like, I will say Western lens, oh no, female, like, you're selling them. But because that's out of emotion, you're looking at it out of a love perspective, It's like, oh no, you shouldn't be buying me because I love you like this. And I'm like, no. But then you find that a couple now divorces in 6 months. It's not about the emotion at all. It's really that song about what's love got to do with. It's about the politics of respect. Love will come, but you have to respect each other first. And that has the same law with everything else. You have to respect the earth. You have to respect the sun. You have to respect whatever, whether if you believe it or not. You just have to respect it whatsoever, because it will respect you back. You see how it worked, how the father respected the man respected the woman, so he paid the cow fee. The family respected them. He accepted the man in the family. Both marriages are coming together. It's a union. Both families are rich because we have shown respect and commitment. It wasn't just thought. It's not just people saying, oh, I love you, or I do this. And that's why people get, confused. And then also,
that's the first law of alchemy. If you want to get something, you gotta give something. And it's very basic. Everybody knows it. Even in the Western world, people say we gotta speculate to accumulate. But that's basically using the principle of alchemy.
Exactly. But once you throw emotion in, it kind of throws things off, because yes, everybody has emotions, everybody feels it. But if I had to talk about emotions, you have to talk about every minute of the day, it'll be something different. It's not about that at all. So that's why I say emotional intelligence. People, if they start training their emotions also, and just to get to do the job, it's like, look, I feel like this. I feel that now. I know that. And this is what presents to me right now. Okay, fine. But this is the goal, this is still the intention, and let's just get through it. You still have to endure a little bit and just get over the moment, and life moves. But that's not the problem. People can't surpass that, because now I think people are now weakened, of course, because they're just vulnerable, insecure, and that whole trauma thing, People suffer a lot of trauma. Not birth process itself being traumatic, but also childhoods, because people are getting married to other people they're not supposed to be married to, and they're marrying for the wrong things, and then they neglect the child. Fine, the person is still alive, but that creates a whole lot of mess in the brain, and people really take that stuff so lightly. They take that stuff so lightly, but people are grown up. Yes, they could be a family and all, but when you're an unfinished individual and then you give birth to another individual, you still give that information. You still build in the same thing. That's why here in Africa, for example, when you do voodoo, it says that it stays in the family for 4 generations. It will plague that family. So if my children's children will be still dealing with the same voodoo maybe my mother had to play with, for example, So you really have to be careful. So that's why it looks like one family is in the same spiral over and over again, but that's the whole point. People are so weak, and so not weak in a bad way, but it's like they really don't try. I really do believe that some people, they just really want to try. They cry, they suck their thumb, and they really do believe that there's or maybe I just see things from a really tough love way, because here we're really like that, things are really tough love, because nature, when I got bitten by the scorpion, for example, it's not like people are coming, feeling sad. Like the nurses were treating me like a whole little bitch. Like, this is nothing, because why? There are people bitten by snakes. You know how many cases of snakes, lion bites, elephant trample over a person, crocodile. So when you get to scorpion, and they even like, but you won't die. They just talk to you like that. It was the most excruciating thing ever. You have to be on narcotics for a whole week until you feel normal. And my foot was not working. I couldn't walk for about 2 months straight. I couldn't walk on it, put pressure whatsoever. But that's what I'm saying. It's sometimes that's the nature. Do you think the scorpion feels sad? Imagine dying just because of a scorpion bite. how, so if I had to put an emotional perspective on it, of course I'll be depressed. It's not like my life died, like I'm valiant, like Brutus from Julius Caesar, with a sword in my stomach and something cool, like maybe how I want to be seen. But no, it's just the whole scorpion bite, just like how the next person will die just from that. It's not something decided by you. It looks like it's even nature, even cruel. You even feel like the devil would be better to even kill you, because you feel like it's something. But that's the whole point. It's not supposed to be emotional. That's just life. You live in the bush. It was probable. It's life. It's nothing to look at it emotional. It's like, okay, you live, that happened, fine. But people look at so many things so emotionally sometimes, when it's not supposed to be emotional. It's supposed to be actually constructive information for the next step. But we use our emotion to stay in one place and be so absorbed in ourselves and not try to think outside of ourselves, because people are scared of looking ugly, whether if that's physical or mentally or psychological, but they're just scared of looking bad or ugly. But it's just a prickly moment for you to get to another, section. But that's what I'm saying. We have that problem of bypassing that. No, but you guys should really come and see. I swear, it's another thing when you're really here. Like, really. It's like, here, I really do like the fact that my country hasn't had a war. And I really do believe the air does feel different because of that. It's compared to other places I've been to. You can sit outside, like I'm sitting outside now. You can leave your door open and you won't have to worry. Like for example, my tribe, we specialize more in minerals. So somebody, like, we dug up a lot of things. So we find gold, silver. So my tribe, we're not native to the land. The ones that are native to the Botswana land, it's the San people. They're the oldest ones, like, in the world. I think they're the oldest in the world. But my tribe specifically, it's not native to this land. But way back, I think we came, let's say, like, from Mali. We traveled down, like, just mining, and that's how we, as a tribe, know ourselves. So today, somebody from my tribe, you find that it's actually normal. They end up being an engineer, for example, because through their DNA, and there's just that tribal DNA, they just know to find minerals. So then it's normal to find that person. Like, you find, like, the statistics, like, people doing engineering would be like 70% of this type of tribe, But just because naturally that's just their nature. And you find another tribe in this. It's not because maybe tribes own things. So that's why I try to be careful with using the word tribes and tribe wars, and why it looks like maybe one tribe dominates another. Because Africa, like I said, African people, we govern ourselves through respect. So if we feel like we're destined already to do a certain thing, they'll just respect it and do it. Beyond the desire of, yeah, I know I can be an engineer, but I want to be a doctor. It's not about that. It's not about you, We, as the people, we identify ourselves like this. We do it like this. So they don't force you. But I'm saying that when people do feel it, they do respect it and go along with it. It's not like they feel like they need to rebel. So that's why you find that certain numbers of certain tribes in a certain sector will be high. But not because, there was a war and they fought and this is mine and that is yours. No. It's just, but this is the DNA. Just as much as you find one tribe that's actually famous just for doing black magic, there are tribes like that. And you will find a tribe that's famous for, for example, like my tribe also is also famous. They are the people, you find online, checking like Zimbabwe, for example, these tribes where they have like webbed feet. They look like the birds, like the feet, like they don't have like they don't have 5 toes actually. It looks literally like a bird's like foot, and they continue to still grow like this. But these ones, I think, this types with the feet still like that is somewhere in the forest, like in like Zimbabwe. So the way tribes are fractured down is also a lot. Like in Botswana, we have just small numbers, but there are 26 tribes, and we do have like all the languages, also 26 languages. But you go to Zambia, they have 22,000. They have 2,000 2,000 languages. You find in Nigeria is 5,000 tribes. So now when you start saying, tribe wars, but it's like, it becomes very blurred. And there's so many languages. For me, it's normal not to understand 85% of my day outside, because the other Africans and they speak other things. So it's normal for me not to understand. But you can go to a very nationalistic country. Let's say I go to France, for example, it's very national. And let's say if I speak English or something else, it's a problem that you speak that language, and you really have to adapt to that. So here, for example, it's not like if you don't speak the language, it's not a problem. People don't feel like some type of disrespect. So when you do make an effort, for example, it's really appreciated because but there's so many other languages. It's not like you get a dog like a biscuit for it also. So it's like, okay, cool. So but that's what I'm just saying, you need to, depends on how you see certain things and how you also live in it, because like here already with the basis of just the politics of respect. I understand that yes, people can come and overpower and take things again and all of that stuff, but I think with just the way certain structures in the brain that we have and how you grow in the house does help in a way. And I've seen how people don't have that also. And I see how that you can use that, not a weapon, but a way to move forward. You get what I'm saying? Like business, if you're a niche, you have to over specialize on that one thing, so I feel like that's how they need to really identify themselves at the end of the day, because everybody now, the way we're being the amount of human rights violations going around in this world, really right now people just want to feel freaking human. I just feel like it's like that right now. I just feel like people just feel like they just want to feel like a bit of love and a bit of like understood, and that their life is actually worth something, and people want to slow down. People are tired, and I know people want to slow down. So people want to feel respect as a human being. Like I was saying way before, it all comes back down to getting the roof, the food, and affection, and just respect. And for the person to then think, okay, I can be something more. So now we're just fighting over just small things already the planet has. So now to God, we just probably look stupid, So it's just about greed and power and everything. And how we're fighting over how much to divide one thing and we're fighting, oh, there's too many people over population. Now there's too little people and then there's no resource. But then now here there's two. Oh, come on, guys. So now you find out we're stuck in, generations and years before Christ, after Christ, I don't even know. Like we're just not on what is really all about, because the bad guy doesn't want to be pointed out. Really, at the end of the day, it's about that for me. But that will always be it. That's the whole point. I think that's the whole point. Like how it's like that proverb we have here. That proverb is if you think you're too small, try sleeping with a mosquito. It's like we think so many things can be so small, but so many things can be so big, and you think that when you're small you have no effect whatsoever. But try, when the mosquito is buzzing in your ear, your fist that you're having a problem, it's still in effect. So I just take it really as it is. You just really have to learn and just see, and it's all really beautiful, really, at the end of the day, how it all works. So there's no such thing about deleting one thing, but I do believe there's too much of one thing and little of the other. That I do believe, and definitely all has to go down to balance, because to have one thing, you really can't have the other. You really cannot. So I
Ludo,
just see all
Luda, in your
that.
in your in your tribe,
Mhm.
how would you say it's structured equally between men and women, or is it still patriarchal, or is it more?
Um, oh, okay. I can give you an example. It's still patriarchal, but again, I think this is where information also gets lost. For example, I think before, not now, we believe, like, for example, in like polygamy. And I think, let's say in media, for example, people assume, oh, okay, no, but that's bad, one man can have many women. But there are certain laws. Here, you are allowed a second wife. First of all, if the wife agrees to it, you have to ask your first wife if she agrees to it. Two, you have to provide the same things. If she has a house mansion and 5 cars, you have to give the second wife house mansion and 5 cars. That's why you find that law was only made for rich, people, rich African men, but they didn't want it for lust. It's like, again, it's about the whole politics of respect. It was about creating empire. You have one woman, okay, she can bear 2, 3, and then another woman 4, 5. And since he had money, you have to have money to fund these females' lives. And they agreed to it not because, oh no, this man is leaving me or one other woman. It's not about the emotion. It's about we're here to create an empire that's better for the village. And a greater village meaning a greater tribe, and a greater tribe better than all. Basically, just the same thing. So that's why there'll be certain laws. But problem that we have here is age profiling. Here we respect the old way more than the young people. It's not like youth is everything, and it creates a lot of problem and imbalances. And a lot of imbalances here, like you see in one job sector is only males, for example. You have a lot of only male sections, and now a lot of governments. The government is doing a lot of projects, trying to empower female stuff and everything, but it's very difficult, because also the females are also taught in a certain way, like, okay, our household is run like this and all of that stuff, and it's the traditional way of how, you know, to make a household run, and it's still very valid because it's hard. It's something that it's like you notice it, but you cannot even remove it because it's like the country is still like 80% traditional. So how do you remove it? It's not like when in other societies, it's like everything got developed, but the thinking got left behind. So now they're trying to update it. I feel like that's what happens with the Western world. It's like everything gets really updated and fast, and then just it takes the people just to accustom to those things. Whereas here is not even that. It's like we're still there. These are still the original people as is on the land. How do you tell these people that have been here for so long, like, hey, like, you know? So that's how, for me personally, I see it as difficult.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians.
If you're interested in trying out the Foundry, just visit tartarynova.com